All right, let's see if we can get this to go live on the first try. Success, I think. All right, we are back at it. What's up? Today is Friday, January 10th, 2025. My name's Aaron. I stream here. We talk about lovable things, at least for the time being. That's what we're talking about. AI coding. What is AI coding? It's using these new age platforms. I don't know what you want to call them. In this case, it's kind of like a full stack sort of. It's AI coding. So there's different levels of AI coding, I guess. There's, talking to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever LLM you want to talk to. And then in the past, you would get some code and maybe put that code somewhere, deploy something on Replit or a server or all these things. But now you've got tools like Lovable, which will allow you just to talk to them, and then they hook up with databases like Superbase, and then they create the integrations, and then all you have to do is kind of just speak to them, and then things like appear. So as the tagline here on Lovable says, it's idea to app in seconds. And so I've been building a Soundscape generator app, as well as several other ideas that I've tinkered with. I managed to get real-time chat working with the Santa's Workshop. I don't know if it still works. Does this thing still work? There are some functions that I use, and I'm very messy and not I wouldn't call myself a coder. So there are things that I make, and I can kind of look at the code and sort of understand what's going on, but don't really ask me to go in and just sort of make changes ad hoc, or just sort of edit things and then expect that they are going to work. I will break something, I'll miss a comma, I'll add an extra space, and then next thing you know, my app is completely just busted. So stuff like this. Let's see if Santa's actually around. Santa might have gone away to hibernate until next year. But let's see if this thing still works. Allow while visiting, yes. Connecting to the workshop. Hey Santa, you there?
Hello there. Santa's not here at the moment, but I'm one of Santa's cheerful helpers. I'm here to listen to all the wonderful Christmas wishes and stories. What can I share with Santa for you today?
I'm wishing that Lovable works today. Lovable, the app sort of builder, lovable.dev.
That sounds like a wonderful wish. It's so great to hear about the things that bring joy and creativity. I'll make sure to remember your positive spirit and enthusiasm. Keep spreading that holiday cheer, and let's hope that everything you wish for brings even more joy to your holiday.
Okay, so that was a quick app. That took, if we just go back in real quick and look at it, I think I did a couple iterations, but one was just to change it. Actually, I built this originally as a means to, it was kind of Zoltar speaks from the movie Big. So a little dates myself a little bit, but there was this movie back in the day, like in the 90s, called Big with Tom Hanks. And there was a fortune telling machine. It was called Zoltar. And then you could speak to Zoltar and then get your fortunes read. So it started with that and real-time chat integration, and it worked pretty well. But then holidays rolled around, and I wanted to turn it into more of like a Santa's Workshop. So the idea here was to take this real-time chat, and then you could talk to it. And then what I was trying to get it to do, which I didn't, and something I'll explore moving forward, because I can see this as like a note-taking assistant or some sort of, just helpful assistant, helpful Honda person, whatever, that you could chat to, and then it could take notes for you and then store those, right? So it would understand the messages that you're telling it, and then push the to-dos or tasks or goals or journal into some other database like Notion or Airtable or something like that. But that aspect I didn't get working. This was just the WebSocket integration with the real-time ChatGPT stuff. And so anyways, that's an example of one project that worked relatively well. And I have several other projects that I've been working on in the past too. So I think this all started about a month ago in terms of, if you look, I haven't been using Lovable for that long. It's been about a month. And so that's what I'm doing. And I just kind of come back to it. I've tried some of the other stuff out there. I haven't tried Cursor or anything like that. That's probably the next evolution, but From what I understand, you need to have maybe a little bit stronger foundation in being able to code, but I could be wrong. I mean, Cursor may be something I should just give a shot. But I do like talking to LLMs and then having it just do the hard work, or the heavy lifting, as they say. Let's do this. Let's get... I need to blow some credits, some messages on my Lovable account, because my subscription renews tomorrow. I've still got a bunch of messages. I don't know that I'm going to be able to use them up. And when my plan rolls over, they'll just go away. So I figured, let's see if anybody's interested in actually... let's see if anybody's interested in actually building stuff with me this morning. So I'm going to go to my stream and see if I can share this or figure out the easiest way to do this. Otherwise, I'll just do this on my phone. Let's see, share. Okay, share. Let's copy this link, and then let's go back to Twitter, and let's just put this out there in the world. Let's see, share. Back to building apps with Lovable. On my live stream, I have a ton of messages to spare, so if you're interested, if you're interested in seeing me build something specific, swing by the pop into swing by the live stream and let me know what you want to see. Okay. Let's push this out. Back to building apps with Lovable on my live stream. I have a ton of messages to spare. So if you're interested in seeing me build something, swing by the live stream and let me know what you want to build. To build. It doesn't matter. Let's just send it. Send. Okay. AI coding, back to building apps. Again, happy Friday. So that is out in the world. Got my coffee. So this is AI coding and coffee. You can find me here on YouTube, Gray's Reality. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. I'll be continuing to live stream, not this weekend, but I'll pick up, Monday. I plan to do this like a early morning stream. Keep it somewhat short. Maybe on Fridays it'll be a little bit longer. We'll see. And I'll also, as the stream grows, we'll continue to do things and then just see how it evolves. So I'm not hung up on any particular format. I would like to particularly change it, because most of this week has been spent building the Soundscape app that I'm working on, which is this one. It has not been deployed yet. I'm probably getting close to actually pushing this out there and maybe getting some users on board. So if this is something you're interested in testing, again, leave a comment or connect with me, DM me on X, Twitter, and let me know. So Gray's Reality on Twitter, on X, and Gray's Reality here on YouTube. This is a new channel. So it's all going to be AI coding stuff, AI automation, mostly AI, mostly Lovable right now. So if you don't know how to code, but you want to push apps out into the world, then this is the place. It'd be cool if there was actually a similar this creates React, like JavaScript apps specifically. So they're web apps, they're cloud-based web apps. But it'd be cool to see some sort of version of Lovable that does Swift, I guess. I guess that's the language for iOS. I have iPhone, been using iPhone forever. And I've always been interested in building an app specifically like an iPhone, like an iOS app or iPad app, iOS app, whatever. But it's a completely different language, technology stack, and I don't think there's any AI builders specifically for Apple yet. Apple should just make one, but they don't, as far as I know. Anyway, so this is the app that I've been working on. So far, I've got I've got Soundscape creation process going on. It is behind like a gate, so it's registered users at the moment, but there's no Stripe integration. There's none of that happening. This is just, I'm just trying to build out the core components. I've got save scenes happening. I can delete scenes. Like if I just need to get rid of this vibrant evening market, I can make it go away, and that kind of thing. There is no undo, so that's not coming back. Let's see. So, that's going on. I'm just going to make sure that the stream is still live. So I have my window over here to help me understand if I'm just still talking to, connected and still talking to nobody, or not connected and still talking to nobody. So there's two variants that could happen. I could either be talking, connected and talking to no one, or not connected and, talking to no one. So, here is, again, kind of where it's at. Yesterday, what I was working on specifically was cleaning up this interaction here. So in here, I have sounds, and then so the Soundscape generates suggestions for sounds. It uses 11 Labs for the sound effects, and you can create them now on the fly, or you can use pre-existing sounds. So if you're looking for like wind or something windy, maybe this is too broad, but I'll type wind. It's searching, and I've got wind whispers, distant wind, gentle breezes, rustling leaves, and so these are all different sound effects that have been generated by 11 Labs. And so now I'm indexing them. As I continue to create more soundscapes, more sounds will get indexed. I could add like this to the scene. So I've got wind whispers, and now you can, hear wind whispers. So this one's actually pretty good. I don't know if I generated wind whispers as a result of looking at the scene or this soundscape, but it's pretty fitting. And then there's a little thing at the end though. There's a little like, actually it's not bad. Ideally I'd love to see it loop. So that would be nice if it looped, but that's again something that I need to build in terms of an audio component, an audio editor, so that now users can fine-tune the sounds, because I think that's going to be important. So now, like I said, most of the capabilities are here. You can search sounds. There is a growing catalog of sound effects. So every time I create a soundscape and generate an effect, it gets added to the database, and it gets embedded as a vector or vector embedded, and then it shows up in the search results. And you could repurpose that for any scene. And then you can generate sounds. So if you want to create a sound like train, big train rolling down the tracks, big heavy train rolling down the track at slow speed. Right, so you can generate a sound. And again, every day I wake up and hope that the thing still works and that it didn't break something the day before. So big heavy train rolling down the tracks, what it's going to do is I'm actually sending a quick call to OpenAI to interpret what I said and format it as a prompt. Actually give me a name for it so that it labels it, slow rolling train, and then generates a prompt based on my description that goes out to 11 Labs. So what we sent to 11 Labs was a low frequency rumble generated by a large locomotive moving at slow speed, producing a deep resonant sound at approximately 70 to 80 dB. The sound features rhythmic clanking of steel wheels on metal tracks, complemented by the subtle creaking of train car bodies and the occasional hissing of air brakes, creating a rich soundscape that varies in intensity as the train navigates curves. All right, so that's a fairly layered prompt. It's got a lot going on. And I'm still not sure if I want it to be more distinct, focus on just the train, but I think it's a really good sound effect. If it actually works and 11 Labs generated something that sounds like that, then it's a great effect. Who wouldn't want that to be available, that they could use in their projects. So slow train. All right, let's hold on. Let's just go over here and pause the wind. Let's see if we can now find it, so that generated sound should now be in the database. So slow train. And again, it's based on vector embedding, so this should come up. Slow rolling train. We got a 43% similarity, And let's give it a go. And so what I'm, in terms of embedding as a vector, is this entire description. So this, I think this entire thing, this whole is getting used as a vector. So if anybody types anything similar, so let's just see, metal tracks, or creaking of train creaking. So if we type train creaks, let's see if it still shows up. Slow rolling train. So it's got the high similarity. I've got a creaking rope bridge because I typed creak, so train creaks. I really like how the search is coming together with the vector stuff, and again, something I did not know how to do or achieve myself in terms of like writing code to embed vectors. In the past, I was using make.com and still use make.com, but to create the vectors, right? And so doing it on the back end, nothing like this, where it's all like sort of integrated in an app and it just handles it. So anyways, let's listen to the slow whirling train. Okay, there are parts of it that I like. It's very subtle, but then there's a little blip. You can hear it, right? There. That's the part that a lot of sound effects come back with. So they're not the best at like seamlessly looping. I'm sure maybe if there was some sort of addition to the prompt that suggested it seamlessly loop, or that it would help. But I find a lot of those artifacts in sound effects that I've generated so far. So I'm thinking that the next component or thing that we build out needs to be some sort of audio editor, audio interface type thing, where you could then, if you like the sound, you can keep it, but you can also modify it. So if you want to like cut that little blip, or roll it out, or fade it out, or crossfade it so that it, more seamlessly transitions, that you could do that. Because otherwise it kind of ruins the effect, right? So soundscapes are supposed to be immersive, and if you have something like that, it's just little, but it will ruin the user experience. So that I think is important. And so if we want to add this to our train why would we add a train to this bridge scene? Not sure, so let's just leave this alone for now. All right, so I have, this is set up. I've got this set up. You can delete scenes. Like I said, most of yesterday I was focused on this interface. So it was very difficult to see yesterday. It's still a little dark for me. Ideally, I'd have something more like this kind of background. This is a little bit easier to see. And so I tried to get Lovable to take the identity and the styling from this dialog box to this one. And it sort of worked, but not really. Like, it's not exact, and this one's still a little faint, and the transparency is a little bit, like, I would like this to pop a little bit more because it just feels very dark. I got fixed the switching between the search, because what was happening was the search results were persistent. So if you looked for like river sounds, for instance, they would show up here, right? But then as you switch to generate, like, they would still be in this tab, right? You would still see all the search results from river over there. Whereas I want distinctly the results from generating sounds here, and then over here search. And then so also, if you were deleting the query, like, the search results would still stay there. And again, not a great user experience. When you delete them, you want it to start over. So you get into building out these components, these like little things, and then you get hung up on them, and then that's what you end up focusing your time on. So, you may make a ton of progress, and or you may not, or you may get caught up in like fixing little things. But I'm trying to keep, I'm just trying to continue to keep the bigger picture in mind and not get so hung up on little UI changes, but because they drive me nuts, I want to fix them, immediately. So that's working. Again, another small tweak. This did not have a close window here. It was just, it relied on like an off click to make it go away, but I wanted a visual indicator that you could close it if you wanted to. And, I'm always looking for, again, I'm kind of fascinated by the UI design experience that now that I can actually create UIs pretty quickly, like the ability to modify them and see the behavior in real time, like even if this isn't publicly deployed, it's still really cool. It's like design, you know, UI design. So that's I find that pretty fascinating. And this whole building out this whole UI was from scratch, just prompting and iterating. You know, no real like direct inspiration other than the gallery here. I sort of took this from Lovable's homepage. So the soundscapes here in terms of the grid layout, I sort of, you know, that was directly inspired by this sort of like grid layout. All right, so that's the Soundscape project. And yeah, I've got if you're not familiar with how the pricing is with Lovable, it is, let's see, I'm about to, I guess what I'm saying is I'm about to renew. My subscription's about to roll over. And so you get a certain amount of messages per month, right? So I started with the launch 50. Hold on, let's see. Settings, plans and billing. Okay. So we've got a starter plan, right? You got the starter plan, you know, occasional use, you get, I believe, what is it? 100 messages, right? For the month. Messages are things like, you know, go do this thing and then it will come back and edit it. Like it'll edit it and then you use the message. And sorry if you can hear the background, there's some landscaping happening. So there's just noise going on. So starter plan. So you can get into this and you can also use this for free every day. You get 5 messages. And that's kind of how I got started with Lovable. I just was, you know, using their little 5 messages a day thing, and then quickly realized I wanted more. Happened to come across an engineer offering an AI engineer pack promotion that was done twice. One of those included a free launch plan for the 50, so launch 50, and that includes 250 messages per month. So again, basically you can chat with Lovable. More recently, you can go in like chat mode and it doesn't use those messages. You can talk to your project and things like that. And then when you actually want to make changes and update the code and commit the changes, then that's usually when the messages will go away. So, you know, they go down. So 250 and down to 0. And that's $50 a month. And then you've got scale options. So you've got scale 1. You can see that's currently where I'm at with the scale. I'm on scale 1, which then is twice that. So on this one, you get 500 messages for $100 a month, and then so on. You can kind of see how it scales out from there. So this is about to renew, and I still have like 200 something messages that I need to use before tonight at like midnight, because all the existing credits, they don't roll over. So they just will poof and go away. I considered downgrading back to launch, but this month I used all the launch credits. I had to upgrade to the scale plan to continue working on projects. So I'm probably just going to keep it at scale, but I do want to exhaust my credits. And so that's kind of like where we're at today. I've also been thinking about the UI experience. Sorry. Still trying to get this head cold out of my head, and so I got these sniffles and I've been blowing my nose for, it seems like a whole, like, last 2 weeks. Also could be something in the air. So what do I want to do with the 200 credits? Well, if anybody swings by the stream again, or if you have any ideas before tomorrow, like if you happen upon this stream or you happen upon the tweets or the X that I just posted, and you're in here listening to this, you can hit me up again on X, Gray's Reality. DM me and let me know if you have anything in mind, or like I said, if you happen upon this and you pop into the stream and you want to see me build something out, I'm more than happy to try to build something quickly, like demo it in real time, because I do have a few extra messages to spare. Otherwise, what the plan will be is to build out the audio component. So the audio editor that I mentioned for the Soundscape, I think what I want to do is build out a component for it so that if we pop back in here, I can demo this again real quick. Let's just say Frozen Tranquility. So when you get in here, you've got these sounds, right? And the way I've got this set up is I've got a trash can. You can delete any of these sounds, right? So you can take them away. But what I want to do is have users give the users the ability to edit any of these sounds. So ice cracking, I want to apply some post-processing on it. So the sound effects is generated by 11 Labs, but I want users to have the ability to edit the sound, like clip it, trim it, maybe crossfade it, ramp it, whatever. I'm not really sure. I'm just trying to, again, give users the ability to make the sounds more seamless, more continuous, more loopable, if you will, so that it doesn't break the immersion, right? So key component, immersion, I want this to be able to play for a reasonable amount of time. Like if somebody like dials in their settings and saves it and then presses play and has their mix dialed in, and just wants to experience the frozen tranquility here, then they can just sort of open this up, have it on their computer, and just sort of like jam out or relax or meditate or whatever, and not have that interruption with the sound, not like break from the immersion. And so that's where I think that's going to be essential. There's some other things that I need to do in terms of like favoriting sounds and that kind of stuff, but I think the next big piece for me to want to focus on is in fact of the editing stuff. And so where does that lead us? Well, that leads us into this place where, give me a sec, I'm going to pop this out and then try to make sure I can monitor the stream and look at ChatGPT at the same time. All right, so let's just see where I'm at with that. And I'll probably bring in another tab over here. Let's just pop this over here and kind of show you what I'm thinking. So in that same vein, I've got this dialogue going on with ChatGPT. So it's kind of like, all right, I would like users of my Soundscape app that's built in React to edit audio files. Is this possible to do something with like Surfer.js? So I sort of have been chatting with GPT and talking about like this project, and if you didn't know, you can now actually create projects in ChatGPT. So you can actually associate different chats on the same project. And for this, I haven't, but I probably should, because it's been an ongoing conversation, and I've had several different dialogue chats open with GPT about like this project specifically. But this thread is about like what libraries are available for either audio visualization, playback controls, zooming, so it's like Wave Surfer is one, and then it sort of tells you how you can integrate it. Recorder.js, basic controls, and then it goes on and tells you like all these different things that it can do. Live mixing, MIDI, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, can all these be built with React? And then it's like, well, here's, for basic controls, you might want to consider HTML5 audio API or libraries like Howler.js. For the timeline, wavesurfer.js. And then you've got trimming and cropping through audio context. And then you've got split and merge with tone.js. And then you've got time stretching and pitch shifting with soundtouch.js. And again, it's just a lot to consider. I don't know what's the best for the Soundscape stuff. I want like some crossfading maybe with some ability to manipulate the volume plus maybe some visualization aspects. And so I'm like, let's tell me about Howler. And then it's like, all right, so Howler can do these things, cross browser, why it's good, playback control, looping and fading, spatial audio, sprite-based audio, event listeners, it's fast, yada, yada. Then it goes on to talk about core concepts, spatial audio. And then I'm like, which of these are the most effective? Because at this point, I still don't know which one's the best, right? I haven't used any of them directly. So I don't have any good sense of like what is the best library to use for my Soundscape generator. So you got web audio, and then it's sort of, then from here I'm getting a little bit more nuanced explanations from GPT. Howler.js, web audio, it sort of then breaks down each one and maybe why it would be, and it even gives me this cool like little sort of comparison, quick comparison at a glance with like ratings. So like seamlessness, ease of use, advanced features, what is probably best for. And then I'm like, okay, what about crossfading? Shouldn't we consider that? And it's like Howler.js, probably. But here's how you could do it with all the other ones. Tone.js, Howler.js, da-da-da, do-do-do, and then it goes and breaks it down again. So at this point, I'm just confused, and I just change topics, and I'm like, well, what? And I start getting into like, how do we market the Soundscape app? But we're not as concerned about that because, like I said, the next big utility thing that I want to complete is the thing here with the audio component. So what I figured we do, instead of like trying to wreck or potentially wreck the progress that I'm at with my Soundscape app, everything's at kind of like where I like it. You know, there's stuff to be worked that I need to work on, but I don't necessarily want to do that directly in this project yet. I want to kind of understand the capabilities of the React stuff, as specific as it relates to audio visualization, editing, trimming, and then once I have a better sense and scope of like what can be done and built with Lovable, then I can come back to this project and understand what I need to tell Lovable to do that in here. All right, so I don't want to experiment on my existing Soundscape project before I understand how to actually convey it. All right, so we're probably just going to build a new project. So I'm going to go back in here, go to dashboard, and then we're just going to start from scratch. And so it's going to be something like, I would like to create an audio editor or sound file, because specifically sound file. I would like to create a sound file editor that allows me to control things like crossfading, volume, trimming, visualization. I don't like putting etc. Etc. sort of leaves it completely open for interpretation. So let's start with this. I would like to create a sound file editor that allows me to control things like crossfading, volume, specifically the goal specifically. And again, the more specific you can be, I think the better. If you can give your prompt a little bit more direction and sort of contain it, at least to start with, I think you'll have better luck. Otherwise, you get broad stroke stuff. It's sort of mediocre, and then you've got to really then bring it all in. It's like herding sheep, I guess. You know, you have sheep all over the place. Whereas opposed to like, let's start with one sheep. You know, I only have to keep an eye on one sheep, and I don't even know if a sheep is a singular sheep is a sheep or if it's something else. The goal specifically is to create seamless ambient loops that play continuously without interruption. All right, so I think that's decent to get started with. Continuously, I just don't like, I mean, I'm sure it understands typing errors, but I don't like the red lines, OCD issues. So, okay, I would like to create a sound file editor that allows me to control things like crossfading, volume, trimming, visualization. The goal specifically is to create seamless ambient loops that play continuously without interruption. Okay, so that's kind of the core thing that I want to build, right? Color, visual identity, I don't really care right now. I just want functionality, right? So just create it. And so again, if you're new to Lovable, what's gonna happen is it's gonna say spinning up a preview, it's gonna think about what you want. There's a best practice that suggests you should just create with a blank app. I haven't followed that or adhered to that advice yet. I just sort of get into it. But you could also start with a blank app and then start prompting from there. All right, let's see what it's doing. So it's building over here. You can see the code sort of getting generated. And then it tells me, I'll help you create a sound file editor specifically designed for creating seamless ambient loops. Let's draw inspiration from professional audio tools like Audacity, Adobe Audition, but with a focused modern web interface. Okay, so far so good. I'm on board with that. Design inspiration, clean, dark interface, typical of audio software for better waveform visibility. I didn't even know that's honestly why interfaces are dark, but that's good to know. Smooth waveform visualization, gradient overlays, intuitive controls, yada yada. Features for V1: audio file upload and playback, waveform visualization with zoom controls, basic audio controls, volume adjustment with visualization, crossfade controls. All right, real-time preview of the loop point markers for seamless section, design elements, color scheme, waveform. Yeah, okay, good. So it created and modified this in real time. So it's updating, it's editing. Here in the interface, you can see the differences between the raw file and then the edits that it made to the file. So this is to the Tailwind configuration, and this was the changes made. And then if you scroll down, you can see the other files that it created, the audio editor itself, audioeditor.tsx, and then you've got waveform.tsx, and then you've got the index.tsx, and I think that's it, the package files as well. So if we go back here, it created the interface. You got zoom controls, it looks like. You got the ability to upload a sound and to play it. I don't know if I have any MP3s on my desktop, but we'll see. Error handling with Lovable. So it says here, it created a professional audio editor with waveform visualization, playback controls. And it says upload an audio file to start editing. There's a knowledge base, so you can manage knowledge for a project. And again, I've only been using Lovable now for about a month, but I haven't taken advantage of this. But it's probably a good thing to do if you want it to behave a certain way. So it's similar to if you've used GPT, system instructions, kind of like a broad stroke, like this is how I want you to interact and interface and do things. And so for me specifically, I might say something like, maybe not project specific, but for this particular, just as a general abstract for Lovable, I'd be like, do not try to make changes without me explicitly saying make changes or proceed or implement changes. Because sometimes even if you're in chat mode, which is in Lovable, it will want to make the changes and then it sort of gets confused because it's stuck. It's literally a switch and it's a beta feature, so it can be buggy. But sometimes it'll just be having discourse with Lovable, and then it wants to go and start changing files. And then it will like go through the motions of doing it. It'll like set it motion and it'll be like editing files. And then if you actually look closer, it'll be like, okay, I did it. But if you look at it, it made 0 changes, but it said that it did it. And then you got to go back and jump out of chat mode and be like, okay, actually do it. Anyway, so this is probably something that I would use for that. But again, I have not, as of yet, taken advantage of that. All right, so the one thing that we do have here is an error. So this is, and again, when we get in here, I don't really know how to interpret these errors, but the good news is you can have Lovable fix them for free, right? So it doesn't cost you any message to fix it. You just sort of say, hey, try to fix this. And if you understand code, then you might understand like what the actual error is. In this particular case, it says there's an error TS, a number object literal may only specify known properties and responsive does not exist in type wave server options. So instead of me fixing it, this is where AI, you say, go fix it, right? And so it's going to try to fix it. It's thinking about it, paste the code back here. You can see it. It says for the code, think about this problem. And then Lovable will typically be like, oh, that's what it is. I got it. And then it'll try to fix it. And so it says, let me fix it for you. And it occurs because I like, the way that Lovable sort of says what it is. Even if I don't necessarily understand, I like to know the thinking or what it's trying to do. As opposed to just doing this all behind the scenes and then you have no idea what it's actually trying to do. So even for my own knowledge base, my own internal coding, so yes, I am coding with AI coding, but at the same time, I feel like I'm getting a better sense of concepts and some of the more technical sort of languages and the stacks and stuff like that. All right, so here you have the waveform TSX, and it made some changes. I don't really know. It just changed responsive true to nothing. Like it just removed the responsive true. So we've got responsive type errors resolved by removing it from the configuration. So literally that's all it did. And you can see from the changes, that's what it did. So here's the entire file, and then here's what it changed, took responsive, and then it just sort of took it out of there. All right, I don't know if that we have an audio file to begin with. Let's see. Let's see. All right, let me try this. I've got this button that will magically make stuff disappear like this. All right, but leaves me on screen. Hey. So let me just browse through, because I don't know what's in my direct. Not like I'm trying to hide anything, but you just, you know, sometimes I need to snoop through my own directories and find stuff that, oh, here you go. I got compressed files. I have no idea what these are, though. Oh, Xeno's reaction. Xeno's reflection. Okay. All right. Okay. So there has been this thing where Lovable specifically has been hiccuping. I don't know. It's got some issues where it kicks you. It just started yesterday, but I'm getting kicked back to the home screen. So let's just mark this in the stream time. 40:35. I didn't even catch that. That was a blip. I think my screen was still hidden. 40:35. Note that for future reference, 40:35. And the reason I say note that is because I'm trying to transcribe my transcripts so as tasks for me to revisit later, because I'll forget what time that happened in the transcript. So at the end of this session, I'll go through a make flow where I update the YouTube titles for the live streams as well as descriptions. But I'm also using that to keep track of project bugs and just stuff that I'm working on. All right, so let's just jump back into the project, and it's doing it again. So at 41:19, 41:15, what's happening is you try to click into a project and it just wants to kick you back out. So we're gonna just do a hard refresh here. Control R on Windows because I'm not on Mac. Considering a Mac for different reasons, potentially as a different stream station, but all right. So quick sort of Control R refresh seems to squash that problem for now. It's just an ongoing sort of technical bug, if you will. But okay, so what I did was I tried to, just to go through the flow, I tried to load up this MP3, right, here, and open it, and then I get this error. And so the error again is no audio loaded, so it couldn't do it because it's got stuff happening, right? And so we're gonna try to fix it again. Go back here. Close this for now. So again, it's going to think about it, it's thinking about it, and let's see what it says, right? So it says, let me analyze the error step by step. No error, audio loaded. It's occurring in the waveform component when trying to zoom. I wasn't necessarily trying to zoom, but apparently it thinks that I was looking at the trace stack. So it's trying to go back, double back, probably look through the logs and figure out what happened. So it's like, let's fix this by adding a proper load check. And again, it went in and added the code to the thing to resolve the issue, hopefully. So those are the changes that it made. It says the changes ensure that on zoom, playback and controls that operate after the waveform is fully loaded. There's an is ready state or referenced in the ready event. And again, these are all things that if you understand JavaScript and this particular library. So here's another thing. I don't even know what library we're using to make this thing work. So if we switch to chat only mode, we could probably ask and be like, what audio libraries are we currently using? And then just ask your project what it's doing. So it's going to be like, hopefully it tell me. In the current code base, we're using two main audio related libraries. We're using Wavesurfer. So we talked about that in terms of my ongoing conversations with ChatGPT. Wavesurfer.js, specific version and why, and then what it's doing and how it's contributing to the project. And then we've got native web audio API. While not a library per se, we are using it as a built-in audio. We're using the browser's built-in audio capabilities through the audio element to handle playback and functionality. All right, so for what you, and see, this is where I need this information so I can communicate it later when I go back and try to rebuild this component in my project, in my actual project. I'll be like, use Wavesurfer, use this, you know, and then well, I'll be able to guide it much better, as opposed to like, I don't know, build me some sort of like audio thing that works. Crossfading, precision tuning, loop, we might want to consider adding, and here are all those other libraries that we already talked about: Tone.js, Web Audio, API Direct, Tuna. That's a new one. Tuna.js, howler.js. So I've seen all of those, but Tuna, don't know what Tuna is, but it says for audio effects. And then it says, would you like to know more about any of these potential things? And I'm like, I don't think we necessarily need to know about these things. We just want to see if this thing will work. All right, so let's go ahead and see if we can upload the file again. So let's try it again. We'll just go with Zeno's reaction. Boom. So managed to get through with not too much hassle. I think, that's so I think that's par for the course right now in terms of like what you could expect user experience wise with Lovable. Like you'll be like, go do this thing, and it'll be like, cool, I got it, handle it, and then it'll start building it. And then you will get like these errors, but Lovable doesn't really charge you for them, so you can just fix them. And then you can chat, and kind of figure out what's happening behind the scenes. If looking at the files, you can't really figure out what's happening there, you can sort of just go into chat only mode. It's down here. There's an option. Again, this is sort of in a labs experimental feature, so it can be a little bit buggy, but the default one is when you want to make changes, and then chat is kind of like when you just want to like have a conversation about your project without making changes. So what do we have? We've got so far we've got the volume, we've got a visualizer, which is pretty cool. It's actually got the waveform. I think I created this this particular file. This is Zeno speech. I think I was trying to create I was using text to speech with 11 labs. For some sort of stoic speech thing. Don't ask. It's some other project thing that this was part of. All right, so what do we want to do? Can we zoom? No, zoom doesn't seem to do anything. So these little magnifying glasses over here, as I'm clicking on them, they, just, as far as I can tell, don't do anything. Something you could do if you want to see if it's actually doing anything is open up the console. And then as you click on these, it looks like, I don't know if these are warnings. No, those are just, so I don't really see that they're actually doing anything of significant interest. So at this point, it doesn't seem like they're functional. And again, we could be like, hey, are the zoom functions working? I click the zoom in and zoom out icons, buttons, and they don't seem to do anything. And this is, again, how I would typically chat, something like that. If you want to be more specific, it should know like what I'm talking about, but another cool feature with Lovable is the ability to select. So you can come up here and like select the button, or maybe even select the entire container, or they're separate, they're in a div with the other buttons. So I'll just select one just to point it in the right direction, and then you just chat again. And so let's see if it says anything about the zoom buttons or zoom not working. And so it'll go on to explain, let's look, let me look at the code. It'll be like zoom functionality is implemented two ways. Current implementation has a couple of problems. Might be too small in the adjustments. Should we improve it, right? So I'm not as concerned about that, right? Let's just try to play the file. But that's just an example of like chat and how you can kind of troubleshoot your project and use the select option to pick particular elements on the screen to sort of provide additional clues to the LLM, Lovable specifically. All right, so let's see if we can get some playback. How about that?
Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand.
Okay, play seems to work.
Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand.
Okay, so now you have playback, and it works, and it does this little cool thing. There, you've got also here, it looks like I can click
Their lack of
and pick up from any particular place. I have issues, I take issue right now with a couple of things in terms of user behavior.
Their lack of time.
If you drag and drop these, actually the play button is better now. Play.
Through their fingers like sand.
But if you get here, right, it still says it stopped the playback, but the pause button still, it's not like, it should say like replay or like like reloop or have an option to start over. And it doesn't. So if you jump around on the timeline, it stays paused, and then you press play, and it doesn't move the marker or the, I forget what you call this thing, the line.
Through their fingers.
And so that's a small little UI issue, but otherwise it's working. Like the color's changing, and actually it's pretty cool. Like, not bad. And then volume works. Okay. So far so good. So if I was gonna try to use this, I'd be like, when the timeline comes to a stop at the end, the play button is still showing as paused. All right, so maybe I would say something like that, just to see where we get, just to see how far we get into the, like, sometimes I want to see discussion. I want some, like, I don't want it to just fix that thing. I just generally want it to improve the entire, like, usability of it. And so it's like, okay, yes, I see the issue. It's happening because we're only updating the play pause state when the user manually clicks the button, but not when the audio naturally ends. There's a couple things that we get to note. The loop attribute is currently set to true, which means the audio should never actually end. It should loop continuously. If we want to handle the end of the playback, we should also sync this. For your case of creating seamless ambient loops, you might want to decide if you want the audio to loop by default, and proper state synchronization between the audio element and the waveform. So for me, yes, I want, yes, I would like the editor to be more conducive, is that conducive? Editor to be more conducive with looping continuously. But I would like the editor to be more, I would like the functions of the audio functions of the editor to be more conducive with looping continuously, or with audio that loops continuously. Audio files. Sometimes I get a little bit too specific, but again, I lean more towards being specific than not. So I'm just, again, chatting, trying to figure out how we can make this a little bit better in terms of user experience, especially for use in my other project, the Soundscape Generator app. So this, again, is just the audio utility to edit, visualize sound. So the idea being that when I click on one of the sound cards from within the Soundscape Generator app, that this sort of window could pop open, and then you could have the ability to fine tune the sound, right? Make the edits here and do that. All right, so let's discuss how we could do that. Loop handling, crossfading, loop preview. All right, so it's got a bunch of things, and because, again, I'm a little bit generous with my messages right now, I'm just gonna say, let's implement the features that are most important, and I like to do this a lot, just copy most important for ambient, that are most important for ambient loop creation workflows, right? And so I basically took a snippet of the thing and just, I could just say go do things, go do it, but I feel like that's just a bit too ambiguous and too broad strokes, so I like to answer back the way that it asked. So Lovable asked me, and I repeat it back for the most part. All right, so we're gonna try to make some changes and see what happens. And again, this is an audio editing utility that we're working on as part of a bigger project, but trying to understand the capabilities of editing audio on the web. So right now it's gonna be like, I'll help you implement the core features for ambient loop creation, focusing on seamless looping and better playback control. And then eventually I'll probably get to a place where I'll ask through chat for it to help me summarize the project, summarize the, what we've done so far. as kind of a spec sheet for going back to my Soundscape generator app and building it back out in there. It would be cool if you could save some of these components, like, you know, because it's all in a shared system per se, it's all on Lovable, like the ability to build a component like outside of your project and then import it, like just sort of bring this into my project and then reference it. So you have like your projects, but then you have components that you've built out and that you could repurpose or reuse, kind of like a, you know, your own library of stuff that you've made. I think you can do that through other, like, there are other libraries available of components that I think you can somewhat direct Lovable to, or copy and paste the code and then do it that way. But I think natively it would be a pretty cool experience if you could do that. All right, so we've got another error. Let's see what we've got. These look like more general TypeScript issues. Again, simple issues that this Lovable should be able to fix without too much stress. All right, and we are coming up on about an hour. So again, I like to try to keep these streams to about an hour, especially when there's not a lot of discourse happening in the chat. So that may change one day, but for now, this is kind of where we're at. But let's see. All right, so did that. Got rid of the errors, I think. So it said here's the TypeScript errors. This is what was going on. This is what we changed. So again, if you know code, then you can look at this and be like, okay, got it. I see what it did. I see what, you know, why it was broken to begin with. And then let's try this again. So let's try to load Xeno's file. Let's try to play it. Okay, and see, now it's just busted, right? So this is kind of, okay. And the zoom works like that. Hey. So zoom actually does work. I think that was the issue before, was the jumps were too small, right? Maybe it should be scale, like a slider instead for the zoom, but that's pretty cool. Also, if you followed any of my streams, you know how much I love this like native UI, like this Windows bar. Ugh. Not a fan, but it's pretty easily fixable. There's, I think Lovable uses pretty popular shade CN, and so you can fix that pretty easily. But the biggest problem I have now is the thing doesn't actually even play. So I'll be like, and when I'm troubleshooting, I often just go right back into chat mode. The sound doesn't play anymore. The sound doesn't play anymore when I press play. Yeah. I don't know if I had a trailing thought there or what, but. All right, so it'll be like, what's wrong with it? Let's analyze what's happening. Might not be properly initialized. Can you check to see if there are any console errors? And so this is something, again, that tends to happen. You'll be like, all right, you need to give it some more information. Lovable's like, it could be a few things. And so if you right click, if you're on Windows and I'm using Chrome, and go into your console, then you can try pressing play, and I don't see, I mean, I see errors here, but if we just reload this, let's see if we can reload the app real quick. And then press, let's see if we can see stuff over here. So you're keeping an eye on stuff in the console, but let's open this. All right, audio loaded, and then if you press play, I don't see any new errors, and it's probably because like you haven't actually added like debugging like logs to the file. Like, so when you click on things, like there's no actual dialogue in the console because you haven't explicitly said to add logs for various events or actions and things like that. So nothing in the console. But please debug and try to fix the playback issues. All right, so I'm gonna take this back out of chat mode because I want it to actually do something. And let's see if we can get this working again. And so, again, this is just sort of like what you would typically end up doing through the through the process of building on Lovable. You sort of wait, you sort of do things, you sort of ask, you sort of, you know, look at what's happening. And in this particular case, it went and updated and changed a whole bunch of stuff. You can see on the green side, these are all the modifications it made based on what I said. So it's like, I'll add console logs. So there it is, see? So it didn't have the logs. Now, if I open this up, there's probably going to be some more stuff that we can look at as I click on things. So let's just see if something happens when I click play.
Many lament their lack of time,
so, yeah.
believing it slips through their fingers.
So it works, and so now you have all these logs, right? You've got creating the instance, cleaning it up, loading the file, it's ready, auto starting playback, etc. And so now you've got logs to look at, which is helpful because otherwise you have no idea what's happening. You don't know what state things are in. And so again, on Chrome anyways, on Windows, it's right-click, inspect, and then you want to click over to console and then look at these things. There are errors. Sometimes the error happens in the environment. So if you refresh the whole browser, then some of these will go away. But if you click on things and start looking at them, you should see specific events happening, right? So zooming out, those are all being logged as things. Volume probably gets logged as well. Yeah, and then you've got errors, which is probably like too many things are going on at one time. So we're not going to worry about that because I think I just triggered that but let's try to fix it because who likes bugs, right? So I'm going to try to fix that real quick. No audio loaded because zoom level before it's fully loaded. See, and this is where, oh, yeah, so it's not in chat mode. It's going to try to fix it. The key change made it to no audio loaded file error, moved the event listener. So, all right, so let's sort of wrap this stream up. I'm going to open this, go back to Zeno's reflection, audio loaded successfully. At least that's what this little notification says behind me. Can't see it because I'm sitting square in front of it.
Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand.
So now it's
lack of time meant their believe slips fingers believe meant their laps through like sand.
All right.
Meant their lack of time.
So now at least I know that we can play an effect. And I won't necessarily need to load one. I'm just loading one locally because I don't have any sounds to reference from my database. This isn't connected to a database yet. It's just building the component itself. And so let's see if the volume still works.
Many lament their lack of time.
Yeah, volume still works. Let's see if the zoom works.
Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time.
It's not bad actually.
It slips through their fingers like sand.
The UI could look prettier. It's sort of flat, you know, there's no real like depth to it. But I do like, you know, that it's almost it's kind of using a very similar color scheme palette that I am using in my current Soundscape generator project. So that's kind of fascinating that it's just so happened to use the same colors, or maybe just by coincidence.
Believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of
actually, so we got that, we fixed that, that's working. Zoom's working, loading's working. Everything that we've asked for so far is working. This is where I would probably be like, okay, how do we add the other things like the crossfading? So has crossfading already been implemented? And so again, chat mode, because I don't actually want Lovable to do anything in this moment. I just need some information so I know how to move forward. Crossfading has not been implemented. Looking at the code, we currently have basic playback. To implement crossfading, we need to add controls to set the crossfade duration. And it says crossfading is particularly important for ambient loops as it helps create seamless transitions between the end and beginning of the loop. Would you like me to explain how yes. You know what? Because we're just jamming away here, Yes, please implement crossfading functionality. Crossfading functionality. Please implement the crossfading functionality. Okay, so I did that because, well, for one, it seems like it already has a good grasp of what we need to do through the chat dialogue there. I would probably flesh that out a little bit more if I was sort of in real time, like actually working on the project, because this is more of we're freestyling a little bit right now, just to sort of, again, burn up some unused messages, but also demo, kind of like how this would work. So rather than you just seeing me chat back and forth, I'd rather, stuff happen on screen. All right, so now we've got another option here, crossfading 2 seconds. All right, so it looks like we've added the crossfading functionality, updated the files, it implemented it. Let's see what it says it's going to do. The crossfade duration can be adjusted from 0 to 10 seconds. Yeah, so let's see if we can crossfade Zeno's discussion. I don't know what these other files are, so I'm not going to risk doing that. But
many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time,
okay, so
believing it slips through their
let's go all the way to
like
10
sand.
seconds.
Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack
Let's
of
go
time,
to 1 second.
believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through
10
their
seconds.
fingers like
All right, stop and play again.
Many lament their lack of time.
Let's go volume. Okay, volume works.
Many lament their lack of
This
time,
clip isn't even 10
believing it slips
seconds,
through
so
their fingers like
if it
sand.
was really a
Many lament their
crossfading
lack
10
of time,
seconds,
believing it slips through their fingers
I
like
don't think
sand.
we'd hear it.
Many
It would.
lament their lack of
We would
time,
definitely notice if there
believing
was a
it slips
change
through
to
their
the
fingers like
playback,
sand.
but it does not appear to be working. So this is where I go back. I see the new crossfade controls, but they don't actually seem to affect the playback in any way. So again, just building, just tweaking, because progress was made. We got the crossfade option. The code was put in play, but it does not work the way it was intended to work, or at least the way I, as a user, want it to work. All right, so it's like looking at the current implementation, I can explain why. And so, again, just as a wish for the next gen LLMs, next gen models, it's like, why did, if I said go, and this is again is where like, if we back up for a second and look at the way we did this, it's kind of like I said, has crossfading been put in play yet? And it's like, no, it hasn't. And then it's like, we need to do this stuff. And it's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, all right, so just do it. And if we step back a bit, I was like, well, maybe we need to think about this more before I submit this, but because I have, extra messages, let's just send it. And so sent it. And then you get the crossfade button, but it doesn't actually work. And then it comes back and you have to ask it, like, why is it not working? And then it's like, looking at the implementation, I can explain why. All right, well, okay, smart system, and hopefully smarter in the future. Like, you don't implement play function if it doesn't work. Like, implement the playback functionality. I expect as a user that it's going to actually do the thing that it's supposed to do. And then if you ask it now, if I go back and be like, all right, you said you did it. Then I go back and it's like, oh, actually, no, I can explain why it's not working. You're like, what? We were supposed to do that. The issues with the issues are, and then it explains why it's not working. To fix this, we need to do this. And so I'll be like, please. And then again, my favorite thing to do, implement the fixes to make the crossfading work effectively. I like being hyper specific. Please implement the fixes to make the crossfading work effectively. All right. So let's just try to get this crossfading thing done. Let's just see if we can get the crossfading to work, and then we'll call it a day. Because we're over an hour now, and that's really we got the UI working. It's playing back, it's loading the files, the zoom features work, but crossfading is not yet working. So let's see if we can get the crossfade to work, and then we'll call it quits for the day. But again, if you need to find me, you can do so. So crossfading functionality has been modified quite a bit. Usually you can just see at a glance the extent to which the files were edited. Now properly implemented with smooth transitions between loop points controlled by the crossfade duration slider. All right, so shall we? Let's play it.
Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand.
Okay, so something is happening.
Their lack of time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack
now
of
it's
time,
like 10 seconds.
believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of
But
time, believing it
let's
slips
go
through their fingers like
4
sand.
seconds.
Many lament their lack of time,
And we need to pause.
believing it slips through their fingers like sand.
Okay. All right, so there is a user behavior, and this is where it's going to get complicated. And this is probably why we should stop here. Because, like, how do you explain that behavior back to the LLM? Like, it's really difficult to sort of cue, like, the Lovable. Like, okay, so when I press, like,
believing it slips through their fingers
and then
like sand. Many lament their lack
you can
of
hear,
time,
like, it's
believing
pitching.
it slips through their
Something's
fingers like
pitching.
sand. Many lament their lack
But
of
then-
time, believing it slips through their fingers like sand. Many lament their lack of time.
And this is something I'll have to
believing it
probably
slips
play
through
with
their
different
fingers
file
like
types,
sand.
because
Many lament
speech
their
is
lack
probably
of
not the
time,
best thing to loop
believing it slips through their
if I'm trying to get a
fingers like
seamless
sand.
effect. But
Many
something is
lament
happening.
their lack of time, believing it
And then when you
slips
press
through their fingers
pause, like
like
there's a
sand.
delay, right? So something continues to play. So it modified some behavior,
Believing
but
it
it's
slips
not,
through their fingers.
it's not necessarily what I would expect. And so that's kind of like where
Like sand. Many
where
lament
this
their
is
lack
at.
of time, believing it
So
slips through
crossfading
their
is doing
fingers like
something,
sand.
but let's see. Actually, you know what? I will put a pin in this for now. We do have a UI. It does load audio. It does zoom. It plays back, but cannot as of yet get the crossfading to work the way I need it to. So also I'll probably want to do some not speed ramps, but volume ramps on this thing. And so I'll probably continue to poke at this and prod away and exhaust some more messages here with Lovable, but just something I'll do off stream or later this evening or you know, when I have time to get to it. But until then, like I said, if you have questions about anything, feel free to connect with me on X, Gray's Reality, on here on YouTube. Subscribe and ask me questions or leave a comment down below. All right, so we'll leave that there. We'll come back to that. That was interesting. I think I've got a better sense of like what I could add to the bigger project that we've been working on. What else was I going to show you? I'm not going to get into any new stuff today. Let's just keep it here. So again, find me on X, find me here, comment there, and let's connect. All right. I'll see you in the next one.